Hello to you, fellow being. Infinite Spiral here, and we're back again in Kerbal Space Program. So, today we are going to try something new. We have accepted 2 contracts, one of which is to fly by Minmus, and that will be part of the larger contract, which is to ferry 3 tourists safely to their destinations and back. And that is going to be a rather large task, because all 3 of them need to get to the moon in some form or another, and all 3 of them also need to get to Minmus in some form or another. So there are different versions of the interactions that we have to complete. There's a better word for that. It's some sort of mathematical term, but I'm failing miserably to think of it. But anyway, so at the moon we need a suborbital space flight with Callan. We need another suborbital with Tom Dan, and Tom Dan also needs to land on the moon. And we need also suborbital with Thomwin or Tomwin. And then at Minmus, we need a suborbital and a flyby and a flyby. And we also need to orbit Kerbin once and orbit Minmus once. And yeah, so we have to keep a very close eye on these requirements as we're going along, because it's way too easy to miss just a single check mark. And this mission probably isn't going to have very much room for error. Now, I have built this sort of gargantuan ship called the Turama. It's sort of complex, super enormous launch stage, obviously, with many things, struts holding things together and keeping it stable. Because, as you saw in a previous episode, there is massive spin if you don't stabilize things the right way. But I have tested this out, and it definitely is capable of the job, so I know that much. And the way it's going to work is we're going to launch this thing and, orbit Kerbin in it to get that completion, and then after that we will go to the moon, use the moon for a gravity assist to take it out to Minmus. And once we get to Minmus, we'll complete all the things we need to do there, and then we'll come back from Minmus to the moon, and at the moon the second time, then we will detach this top stage, which will have one of the tourists in it, the one that needs to land on the moon. The rest of the thing will actually just go back to Kerbin at that point. And then this will land on the moon and take off from there and come back to Kerbin as well. So this is going to be just a massively complex and interesting mission. I am looking forward to it. I really hope that I don't screw it up, but we need to get this crewed the right way. So Tom Dan was the one that needed to be going and landing on the moon. So Tom Dan is the one that goes in the Mark 1 command pod. And the other 2 tourists, will go in the inline cockpits. And we will send Jeb or Val. I feel like Val has been through enough recently. We're going to send Jeb on this one. And that will be piloted thusly, and the Tom Dan Moonlander will be remotely controlled just with a probe core. He doesn't get his own personal pilot. So, now that that is set, let's go. So I did update the game to 1.0.2 between building this thing and now. So I had tested it previously, but I don't know if it's actually viable anymore, because it seems to be a lot less controllable, at least during this launch. I'm having a lot more trouble getting this thing just out of atmosphere. So there do seem to have been some changes that I am having to relearn how to counteract. See, and now we're going so much faster, so much sooner, and I don't like that. So I've got 8 more of these central solid boosters going all at the same time. I had taken those out and put them on a separate stage to help us to establish the orbit, instead of keeping them just in the launch, but it wasn't launching functionally, so I had to put them back into the launch, and now we just go so fast. It's ridiculous. And then this flipping shit starts. Okay, there we go. Got it under control. That's good. And now we are overheating our decouplers. But we're also about to be out of this stage of fuel, so we should be okay. Oh god. There we go. Okay. Drop all that shit. Drop these. Have explosions happen, but it's fine. It's no big deal. And we're still rising. Let's get out of atmosphere where our apoapsis is. 95 kilometers. Beautiful. Okay. So keeping those solid boosters all in the launch stage does seem to be functional. Just double check, make sure we didn't lose any engines. We did not. Doesn't seem like we lost anything. There were lots of explosions, but I think that was just decouplers going off. So let us begin to burn again. And this thing is much more stable than it used to be. These struts here are keeping the wagging to a much more much more manageable minimum. This thing's got some serious gimbal to it. Wag wag. Alright, let's get to the map screen and look at all that debris. And apoapsis is still rising, which we don't necessarily need. In fact, let's reserve more of this burn for the apoapsis. Alright, now we can start our full circularizing burn. No, not towards the ground, just at the horizon. Stay there. Great. So this is an interesting rocket, and yeah, these, I can't even believe how much these struts are stabilizing it right now. In the previous design, before I put those in, this thing would be wagging all up and down right now, because we're at full throttle, and on this massive booster, this joint right here is just horribly unstable. So let's check this. Okay. Let's get that a slightly more radial out oriented. Although I don't think you can be radial. I don't think you can navigate in radial directions until you have a full orbit. So I guess this is a skyward burn. But I guess it could be radial out. I have no idea how that works. There are technicalities at play that I don't understand. And good. Okay. So we now have a successful and stable orbit established, and still a bit of fuel in this stage, which I love. I had some previous tests that went so very poorly, and I was running out of this before even having an orbit and moving on to this stage, so this is a decent attempt. So I'm happy with this one. I think this will be the one where we go all the way. So what we need to do now, in order to fulfill... Oh, okay, I thought we had to actually complete an orbit, but apparently just establishing an orbit is enough. Because we've got the check mark on both of those. So now we need to set up our moon interaction and gravity assist out to... Where is Minmus? Minmus is over there right now. Okay, so we need to slingshot around the right side of the moon as we're looking at it now. Or the back of its orbit side. I'm sure there's a better term for that, but that would be the more accurate way of describing it, because right and left are sort of meaningless. It's all in terms of relationship to other things. But anyway, so we need to get our orbit set up right about... Let's see, it will be that way, so probably about there, I'm gonna guess, and prograde out to the moon. Damn, I am good. Well, not really. That puts us around the wrong side of it. So let's bring it back a bit. That's what we're looking for. And we're going to try and plan this thing as far ahead as we can, because as we're coming around the moon, then we need to... I mean, it's easier to target Minmus and get your... See, Minmus has a slightly eccentric orbit around Kerbin. It's not the same as the moon's, so it would be easier to fix the eccentricity of our orbit in correlation with Minmus's from Kerbin, but then we wouldn't be able to use the moon for a slingshot unless it was on one of the ascending or descending nodes, and that's a very specific sort of approach, and I don't want to wait for the right time alignment. So what we're going to do is keep this inclination and use the moon here on this slingshot, and right now that brings us out to that kind of an orbit. So let us just push it a tiny bit further, and so from there we are going to put a second maneuver here and mess with that to get the inclination better aligned. Now, this might not be the best approach necessarily, but I'm kind of going by the seat of my pants, and this is sort of the first solution that came to mind for me, and so I'm going with it. It seems to be a decent way to work with it. So with that, now we need to figure out exactly where Minmus is going to be. It's probably further in this direction by the time we get there. So we're going to bring this back a tiny bit and radial out and more prograde. And, oh, come on. Hey, why are you only dragging in that direction? Come on. Ah, damn it. Okay. I know. We will focus on the moon. That will make things easier. Dear Lord. Why? No. Crap. Accidentally hit shift because I'm used to holding shift while hitting tab to go backwards. Damn you, game controls. Anyway, let's keep tabbing through until we get... Okay, now we're focused on the moon, which is what we wanted. And because of what we did, we fucked our original moon encounter. So we're gonna have to fix that and start from scratch. So yeah, don't hit shift, ever. You will screw things up if you have anything planned. Yeah, these maneuvers are sort of fidgety when you're trying to make alterations and do things. What is going on here? It's a real problem that if you're over one of these nodes and you use the mouse wheel, it acts like you're trying to manipulate that node. Whereas if you're off the node and you use it to zoom in and out. So if you're trying to zoom out and you're over a node, suddenly you're fucking with your maneuver. It's a sort of a not good system. That's a criticism I would give of this system they have in place. But I'm thinking that we're going to have... Oh, wrong way. So we might actually have to orbit the moon in order to get a better approach at Minmus, because it's looking like, you know, there's a really limited... Oh, never mind. Found it. But yeah, I was going to say there's a really limited, you know, window of possibility for encounter with Minmus here. I just wasn't sure where it was going to be. I figured it was further this way, and it was. But it looks like we are actually able to get it during our... Let's look at these. 1 million. Okay, so we're coming out in front of it. And that's coming in behind it. But we're coming in way too fast, and that's why we don't have... Oh, that's a really close periapsis. I can work with that. Let's bring it even closer. 351. Yep, 351 looks like it might be the closest. And then inclination is the other thing that requires fixing. 84 kilometers. Alright, Well, that's it. We've got everything planned out, so we just need to follow the maneuver nodes from here. So we have a 1 minute 10-second burn at this point, which is going to definitely go through all of the fuel that we have in this stage. And after that, that will change, you know, our the rapidity with which our delta V changes. Our delta V. The rapidity with which our velocity changes. So that's going to significantly affect things. But anyway, let us go ahead and warp to this maneuver here, if we can. Focus on Kerbin. Alright, well, looks like we can't, so we'll just warp to in front of it. Alright, so we are 50 seconds out from the node, which means we need to be pointed at it right now. And that's going to take time. I warped too close to the damn thing. So 35 seconds is where we should start our burn, although it's not actually going to be that because of the stage running out and such. But I think it's better to err on the far side, which is to say, oh, come on, get more pointed at the node. Thank you. Better. Okay, I think that, oh dear lord, every slight adjustment I try to make is a massive wag because of this damn super long, ridiculous rocket. Okay, there goes that stage. We drop it and get the fudge out. Like so. And yeah, the burn is much longer now because of the smaller, less powerful engines, but there's also a lot less mass to be pushing, so hopefully we should be able to still get everything the way we want it. I don't know that we will. I really hope. Really, really hope. But we can always adjust things on the fly as necessary, because this ship is fully capable of the task. I know it is. Alright, starting to get a little wobbly with the node as we get closer to the 0 point. And good. Pleased with that, and that gets us our periapsis with the moon at focus on moon. There we go. Okay, so that gets us our periapsis at 312, which is actually somewhat closer. All right. So now our maneuver, the way we have it set up, is apparently still on a Minmus encounter, which is beautiful. Beautiful and lovely and fantastic. So let's alter it just a little bit. Hello. Just to get it a slight bit closer. 230. Ooh. Looks like we have... Oh, that's a backwards orbit. We don't want that necessarily. Periapsis at 70K. Which, I mean, we don't really need to get that close because we're not landing on it or anything. So that should be good. 35 kilometers. But we also want to, so for the moon, suborbital, we'll do that the next time. Suborbital for the moon. Suborbital for the moon. So they all three need suborbital moon flights, and then the one of them needs to land on the moon. Anyway, we're going to fast forward until our node here. So that is a 32-second burn. That is totally manageable. Let's warp to here. I see you coming for me, moon. Looking like the Death Star. Got that one giant crater facing us right now. Very nice. Okay, so here we are. Oh, no, still warping. Now we're here at 32 minutes from the node. Let's keep warping, shall we? Okay. Alright, 1 minute from the node. Let us get pointed at it. Oh, wrong way. Come on. So I think that this, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but I think that this is going to be a successful mission. This is my very first actual tourism mission, my first time taking tourists out and actually putting them in a ship and doing stuff with them. So I'm, you know, a little paranoid that it's going to fail, but at the same time, I'm also really optimistic about this flight. It seems to be going very well. And because I've said that, I am going to quick save. There. I did a named quick save. You can do that by holding Alt and hitting F5. I found out about that recently. And that is a lifesaver of a feature, because you can quick save at different points and not just be stuck with the one quick save that was the last one you made. You can actually go back to previous quick saves. I mean, I haven't tested that. I don't know that that's true. I think that's why it's there, though. I don't know why else you would want to name a quick save if you couldn't choose it from a list, you know? So we're going to fast forward again until right about there and start our burn now. At T-minus 16 is where we started for our 32-second burn. And trying to keep as pointed at the node as we can, which right now doesn't require any adjustment, but it did take a little right at the beginning. I know, fascinating, right? Alright, getting close. And... okay. So just to fudge with it a tiny bit to bring it down to 0. Okay, well, 0.2 meters per second off, that's close enough for me. Yeah, a Minmus periapsis at 32 to 33 kilometers is perfect. I mean, anything would be perfect as long as it's an encounter, but I'm quite pleased. So let's focus on our craft and get over there. Let us warp to here. And look at Minmus as it approaches. Oh, look at it, it's getting bigger. Oh, and we're there. That was anticlimactic. Let's warp here to the actual encounter. Oh my, are you kidding me? Did it just fuck me? We have lost our Minmus encounter. Well, that's what that quick save was for. Oh my word. Apparently we are not pointed at our node, which we really need to be because it starts at T-minus 36, which is, you know, now. We've already passed the start point. It's fine. It's not a huge deal. We'll get it. There we go. Just get pointed right at it. Yeah, just like that. We got it. I promise. All will be well and right and fine. There will be no errors. So yeah, pro tip. Don't increase the speed of your time warp if you're auto... Dear God, come on. Are we still in time warp? Are things happening? I got confused. I was talking about time warp, so I hit the time warp cancel button instead of the throttle cut button, which was what I needed to be hitting. Oh, Distracto Beast. Well, that's okay. We can fix the error right now. There. 0.1 meter per second off. And we have a 45 kilometer periapsis of Minmus. Alright, well we're gonna... Cannot auto warp so far. Okay. Well, apparently that's too warp to far. Yes. Too far to warp. Now, warp to encounter. And not past. Lovely. I see you, Minmus. You are there. Alright, so now we are in our Minmus encounter, and we need to orbit Minmus, if I'm correct. We've got our flyby. Yep, that's great. And we also need a suborbital, so we need to... At the periapsis. No, not warp. I didn't mean warp. Damn you, add maneuver. That's what I was going for. Okay, so we need to orbit Minmus, which will be a 47-second burn, which is significant, but certainly not undoable. Not undoable. It's a double negative that doesn't even make sense. But, alright, I think everything will be fine. So let us get pointed at this node, and back to map, and warp to there. I want to speed up this warp, but I'm not going to, because I know how disastrous that can be. I'm going to do it. It was super dangerous. God damn it. Alright, well, we're going to time warp some more till we are at T-minus 134? I think that's right. Minute 34 seconds? No. Yes, that's correct. Anyway, we're done with the time warping because we're close enough to that maneuver that we need to start. We're just gonna go ahead and start now. And we're gonna drop the maneuver node, and just do it from the map screen. Because it doesn't need to be precise, it just needs to be in orbit. And it's always fun to watch the Kerbin orbit spiraling away. Look at that thing. Alright, bending around and orbit. Lovely. Okay, so from there, have we gotten credit? I think we do. Have credit of orbit around Minmus, indeed. So next, we need to turn this into a suborbital flight of Minmus. But first, let's just look at it a little bit. Big ice ball. Ridiculous. I don't know why that's ridiculous. Never mind. Out to the apoapsis. This doesn't need to be super precise. We're just going to go to the apoapsis and burn retrograde. No, not time warp. Exit map. I screw up which keys I press a lot because I can't see my keyboard. My microphone and pop filter are sort of blocking that view for me. So that's why errors happen, in addition to ineptitude. But there, so we're going to burn retrograde until our periapsis disappears, which will be very quick. There. So now we're on a suborbital flight. And no, not time warp. And have we got our suborbital spaceflight? Or there it is, yes. Suborbital spaceflight on Minmus. We have that now accomplished. All that's left is 3 suborbital flights on the moon and 1 moon landing.